Okay, Heather, thank you. It is Wednesday, October 11th. President Trump hitting the road talking taxes in Pennsylvania. What does this mean for your bottom line? We're going to break it down.
And Hillary Clinton finally denouncing friend and donor Harvey Weinstein. So what took her so long?
And also tanking ratings and tax breaks on the line. NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell has some newfound patriotism, but is it too little too late? Fox and Friends First continues right now.
You are watching Fox and Friends First. I'm Jillian Mealy.
And I'm Rob Schmidt. Thanks for starting your day with us. And our top story this morning, in just a few hours, President Trump will hit the road to push his new tax reform plan.
But the big question is, what can we expect? And joining us from Washington, D.C. with the brand new details is Griff Jenkins. Good morning, Griff.
Good morning, Jillian. Rob, I'm awake now. Listen to Katy Perry. So let me tell you about the president heading to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania this afternoon, a place the president seems to favor. It's his third trip there since taking office. He's going to talk to a crowd of about 1,000 Pennsylvania workers at an Air National Guard hangar, many of them expected to be truckers, a group the president considers the lifeblood of our economy because literally when the trucks are moving, he says, so too is the economy. We expect the president to talk about personal stories of those who stand to benefit from this tax reform plan. Here's what he had to say looking ahead to today's speech.
People want to see tax cuts, they want to see major reductions in their taxes, and they want to see tax reform, and that's what we're doing.
And the president also not giving up on health care, planning to use the power of his pen to take action, expected to sign a measure this week that would allow Americans to buy health care across state lines. This, as a majority of Americans are growing tired of inaction in Washington. And in the wake of the GOP's repeated failed attempts at repealing and replacing Obamacare, Senator Lindsey Graham says there's a lot at stake for his party if they can't deliver on the president's agenda.
If the Republicans don't deliver on tax reform and repealing and replacing Obamacare and keeping America safe, then we're going to lose.
So how likely are the Republicans to deliver on the president's tax reform? One concern appears to be the president's recent Twitter feud with outgoing Tennessee Senator Bob Corker, because like health care, the GOP will need 50 votes to pass anything, and the Republicans can only afford to lose 2 votes. Maybe we'll learn more about this. The president sits down with Sean Hannity around before or after that speech in Pennsylvania today. Guys, we'll see what comes.
Yeah, learn the details of all this, how it's going to work. All right, Griff, thanks so much. All right, going to move on now to the ever-expanding Harvey Weinstein scandal, and TMZ reporting Harvey boarded a private jet overnight, headed to a sex rehab center on another continent in Europe.
And after 5 days of silence, Hillary Clinton is finally breaking her silence, saying, quote, I was shocked and appalled by the revelations about Harvey Weinstein. The behavior described by women coming forward cannot be tolerated. Weinstein, a friend and donor to Clinton. Now, counselor to the president, Kellyanne Conway, tweeting this yesterday, quote, it took Hillary about 5 minutes to blame the NRA for Madman's rampage. Of course, she's talking about in Las Vegas, but 5 days to sort of kind of blame Harvey Weinstein for his sexual assaults.
Meanwhile, Weinstein's wife, Georgina Chapman, announcing she is leaving him hours after a bombshell new report detailed accusations from 3 women who say that Weinstein had raped them. And New Yorker magazine obtaining an audio recording of a 2015 sting operation involving Weinstein and a young model. And we must warn you, this is pretty disturbing to listen to.
It's just that I don't feel comfortable.
I mean, don't have a fight with me on the phone.
It's not nice.
Please, I'm not going to do anything. I swear, my children. Please come in. On everything. I'm a famous guy.
I'm feeling very uncomfortable right now.
Please come in now. And 1 minute. And if you want to leave, when the guy comes with my jacket, you can go.
Yesterday you touched my breast.
Oh, please, I'm sorry. Just come on. I'm used to that.
But
come on.
are you used to that?
Yes, come in. Because
No, but I'm not used to
I
that.
won't do it again. Come on. Sit here. Sit here for a minute, please.
The Manhattan District Attorney's Office decided not to press charges in that case. And speaking of Hillary Clinton, she still hasn't said whether or not she will give that money back.
It's quite a bit of money, too. Conservative commentator Monica Crowley, who actually knows Harvey Weinstein, says she believes that the Hollywood mogul thought he was in the clear because liberals would have his back.
Hillary Clinton said over the last year that women who make these kinds of accusations should be believed.
Only this year, only that last year, though.
And look, Harvey Weinstein in the first day of this scandal was telling people this is going to blow over because he believed, as a good liberal who was throwing his money around, that he'd be protected. And for a long time, he was.
Gwyneth Paltrow and Angelina Jolie saying Harvey preyed on them. Jolie not giving specific details, but saying, quote, I had a bad experience with Harvey Weinstein in my youth and as a result chose never to work with him again and warn others when they did.
Wow. Well, we're going to see how
that
it just keeps coming out. And now he's gone to Europe for rehab, one way to avoid the paparazzi. But now we're going to talk about another topic here, which is the NFL and the national anthem and this expanding story, and now kind of a change of pace for Roger Goodell and the way they're going to try and handle this.
Yeah, and a lot of people have wanted to hear this from Roger Goodell. He put out a statement, so we'll read you in part some of his letter. It says, quote, like many of our fans, we believe that everyone should stand for the national anthem. We want to honor our flag and our country, and our fans expect that of us. Now, I mean, the beginning part of this letter reads, we live in a country that can feel very divided. Sports, especially in the NFL, brings people together, lets them set aside those divisions at least for a few hours. And I think that's the thing that a lot of people are having a hard time with, is a lot of people, for them anyway, football, whether it be, you know, Sunday, Monday night, whatever, that was their release, right? That was their way to escape reality.
To get out of this, yeah. And here, just an indication of what this has done to the NFL. Here's Monday Night Football. It's a major show. And they're Week 5 down 17% from Week 4. So this has been a consistent plummet for them. Let's listen to former House Speaker Newt Gingrich on this topic.
One of the things that is driving the elite media crazy is that Trump has this instinct for taking the side of the American people and taking the side of American history and being willing to stand up to every politically correct nutcake left-winger there is. And he's gradually beginning to break through, I think. And it gives him a well of support that's not measurable in traditional terms. I mean, all these if you go back and collected all the elitists who wrote columns about how wrong it was for Trump to do this, well, the average American looked up and said, no, that's exactly right. And when Dave Winston and his team did their poll and found out that the NFL had collapsed in favor, dramatically, I am sure at that point Roger Goodell suddenly, in a moment of deep patriotism and desire not to go broke,
And that's exactly right. I mean, it's a business to him, and he has to make a smart business decision, but he's also petrified of these left-leaning PC groups, and once they brand you as insensitive, especially to a minority topic or to a racial topic, you're screwed. And so he's trying to play that on the fence and not offend anybody.
Well, this isn't their only problem. I mean, I was, as you know, a sports reporter the last couple of years in Philadelphia, and we spent so much time talking about CTE and what is that going to do to the sport of football. So you have that, you had this now, so I'm not surprised to see these ratings going down in increasing amounts.
It's a lot on their plate to deal with. All right, send us your comments if you want to. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, anywhere you want. Email, that's fine. All right, let's move on to some other news now. Breaking overnight, 2 Navy commanders of the USS John McCain fired after a crash that left 10 sailors dead. That accident ruled preventable. Commanding Officer Alfredo Sanchez and Executive Officer Jesse Sanchez, both relieved from their positions for poor leadership and judgment. Back in August, that missile destroyer collided with an oil tanker near Singapore in a very busy area. The Navy also relieved Vice Admiral Joseph Alcoin, the commander of the 7th Fleet, from his duties after that crash.
Parents who lied to the FBI about their sons joining ISIS overseas will soon learn their fate. The feds say Arman and Omar Ali moved from Texas to Syria to fight with the terror group back in 2014. Their parents first denied knowing about the violent plans, but later pleaded guilty to making false statements. They will be sentenced tomorrow and face 8 years behind bars. No word on if their sons are still alive.
And this just in, MGM Resorts, which owns the Mandalay Bay Hotel, says the report that the gunman shot a hotel security guard before he began opening fire on that crowd in Las Vegas, well, that might not be true, according to them. The company only saying, quote, what is currently being expressed may not be accurate. Meanwhile, we're learning the gunman may have used the hotel's freight elevator days before he opened fire, leaving 58 people dead. The killer also reportedly used specific bullets designed to ignite and cause an explosion when he was shooting at fuel tanks. That thankfully did not work.
Brand new limits on where you can buy a gun. This unfolding in California. An appeals court ruling, county leaders have the right to restrict locations of gun stores. The ruling upholds an ordinance banning new stores near schools, neighborhoods, and liquor stores. The panel says restricting shop locations does not violate the Second Amendment.
Well, for the first time in nearly 30 years, the U.S. men's soccer team will not take the field for next year's World Cup.
The 28th ranked Americans losing to 99th ranked Trinidad 2-1, ending their streak of 7 straight appearances at the World Cup. Oh, that breaks your heart.
That's not good.
Oh,
I don't know how we missed it.
I know. All right, it's 10 minutes after the hour right now, and what could be one of the worst natural disasters in California history is 0% contained at this hour. We're live on the ground as the search intensifies for hundreds of people missing in the raging infernos.
And Congressman Marsha Blackburn responding after Twitter has a change of heart, I should say, deciding it is no longer offensive, Twitter is, to be conservative.
The American people rose up. They are sick and tired of the liberal elites and the liberal media telling them what they're going to listen to.
We're going to talk about the backlash that's now growing over the social media sites' censorship.
Good morning to you. We're back now with a Fox News alert. It could be one of the worst natural disasters in California history, and you can just see by the flames there. At this hour, massive wildfires leaving 17 people dead.
And at least 200 people are missing right now. Let's get right to Adam Housley, live from his hometown of Napa, with the very latest this morning. Adam.
Yeah, Rob, actually, we've just moved over the hill from Napa. We're in an area called Sassoon. To give you an idea of how fast these fires are moving, last night, the ridge that separates Napa County from Solano County, I was up there. In fact, I shot some video. You can see the conditions change as I was there on that ridge as the fire basically moved from Napa County into Solano County. It's now burning basically 2 different counties from Napa into Solano, this area here, jumping from hillside to hillside. At one point, it spotted 3/4 of a mile away, which means basically the fire jumped 3/4 of a mile with that wind. Just a crazy time. It forced a lot of evacuations in this area. People that were prepared to go, but some were also surprised. I came across some folks who were trying to get their cows out, helped them get about 8 cows into a horse trailer, and they got them out of here before the flames went through their property. Take a listen to what they said about having to get out and escape these flames.
We came over here to help these people evacuate their cattle, and we actually came over to evacuate horses. So we have a big horse trailer, so we were able to help them get all their cattle.
Yeah, the call had gone out for anybody to help. You saw a lot of horse trailers come in to this area. What's interesting, too, is we're not too far away from a large community of homes. Roughly 400 or 500 are about 2 more miles to my east. So there's some worry that when the wind comes back, if it comes from the west and blows towards the east, that community might be threatened by these fires that continue to jump around here. At this hour, here's what we know. This is the Atlas fire. It's 25,000 acres, 0% containment, guys. This fire, the Sonoma fire, and a fire burning in Napa, all told, more than 2,000 different facilities, houses, and businesses have burned, and 17 people have died. Back to you guys in New York.
And Adam, there's still a lot of people missing, but that could also be in part because there's still not that great service up there, right?
Right, yeah, cell service is spotty. Where we are actually still okay, but over in Napa and Sonoma, very little cell service. In fact, I've had a number of viewers contact me, and they eventually found their loved ones. So it's a situation, a lot of people just don't know where to go, and there's no way to call out. So while there's 200 some odd people, missing persons reports filed, that doesn't mean 200 people are dead or perished or in a hospital. It just means that they don't know where they are.
Yeah, what a nightmare that is in Northern California. All right, Adam, thank you so much.
And coming up, you're under arrest. Now you can sue the cop who arrested you? That's up for debate at this hour. We'll explain.
And take a look at this. A farmer sending a message to the athletes who kneel for the national anthem.
It's not because of black, white, or brown, or Republican, or Democrat. It's all about honoring the flag and the many men and women that died for our country.
Well, there you have it. That story trending this morning. And that's not all. Carly Shimkus here to break it down after the break.
Hey,
good morning.
The American people rose up. They are sick and tired of the liberal elites and the liberal media telling them what they're going to listen to and what is going to be pushed forward in broadcast and what is not. And in this example, it was Twitter. And they decided that to talk about pro-life, pro-woman, pro-baby was inflammatory and would evoke a negative response. And they said if I chose to leave that wording out, they would allow it to serve. So they doubled down on censoring me. So I doubled down on standing for life.
Well, that is Marsha Blackburn last night on The Story discussing Twitter's decision to pull ads from her campaign video.
And now, after intense backlash, Twitter is reversing its decision. Carly Shimkus with Fox News Headlines 24/7, Sirius XM 115, here with all the juicy details, Carly.
Twitter says they made a mistake, which is pretty incredible. Now, a little bit of backstory here. So on Monday, Twitter executives said that they decided to ban Congresswoman Blackburn's Senate campaign ads because in them, she said that she worked to stop the sale of, quote, baby body parts, referring to her time investigating Planned Parenthood. Well, the decision to ban that ad caused viral outrage, and now Twitter says they are reversing course. They released this statement on the subject saying, after reconsidering the ad in the context of the entire message, we believe there is room to refine our policies around these issues. Well, this latest development, of course, is now going viral online, and Joy and Shy called it a victory for free speech. Scott on Twitter also says, make America great again by beating back censorship. And JC also chimed in saying, thank you for standing up for your beliefs. Twitter has no right to censor. What about freedom of speech? Well, those are questions that I'm sure she will be able to address on Fox and Friends. She's going to be on Fox and Friends at 8:30 Eastern time today.
That will be interesting. All right,
Yeah,
we've got this Drexel University professor, and what's going on here?
Yeah, an update on this story. So a Drexel University professor who blamed the Las Vegas shooting on white victimization and Trump supporters has been placed on administrative leave. So shortly after this tragedy took place, this professor, his name is George Chicarella-Mar, took to Twitter with this message. He says, white people and men are told that they are entitled to everything. This is what happens when they don't get what they want. The narrative of white victimization has been gradually built over the past 40 years. It is the spinal column of Trumpism and the most extreme form of the white genocide myth. So after increased outrage over this guy's message, Drexel says they placed him on leave because they actually feared for their students' safety. Death threats, of course, are never good, but some people are saying that him being placed on leave was the right call, including Giuseppe, who says this guy is teaching people. Does Drexel hire anyone? Sean on Twitter also chimed in saying this guy is an idiot, should have lost his job a long time ago. Drexel has to fear for the safety of their students first and foremost. He now says, though, that he is going to take legal action to try and get his job back. We'll see about that.
A good school.
Good luck, buddy.
All right, so there's a farmer who's telling the NFL what he thinks.
Yeah, he's got a larger-than-life message for these football players. As you can see right here in bold, we stand for the national anthem. So farmer Gene Henson, he lives in North Dakota. He was on Fox and Friends first a little earlier this morning to talk about it. Take a listen.
It's not because of black, white, or brown, or Republican or Democrat. It's all about honoring the flag and the many men and women that died for our country.
Look at that. He's getting his 5 minutes of fame. Isn't he the best? So he says, if you want to protest something, do it another time. Don't do it during the national anthem. And he even received some support from Donald Trump Jr. I just saw that he posted this story on his Twitter account. Yeah. So he's getting his, 15 minutes of fame, as he deserves that.
Yes, great outlook on it, doesn't he?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks, Carly. Thanks a lot.
All right, coming up, Hillary Clinton finally speaking out about Harvey Weinstein. A lot of people asking this morning, what took her so long? And is Hollywood about to come apart at the seams? We're going to see. That's coming up next.
And take a look at this. A couple on vacation finds a camera in their bedroom, and it's pointed right at their bed. Wait until you hear how they found it. Oh.
Gee.
The accusations against movie mogul Harvey Weinstein growing worse by the day. And it took Hillary Clinton 5 days to denounce her friend and donor. And she says, quote, I was shocked and appalled by the revelations about Harvey Weinstein. The behavior described by women coming forward cannot be tolerated. Their courage and the support of others is critical in helping to stop this kind of behavior. For a candidate who championed women's rights, the question is, why did it take Hillary Clinton so long to be able to release that statement? Here to discuss is Republican strategist Noel Nickpour and Democratic strategist Mustafa Tamiz. Thanks for joining us this morning, guys.
Thanks.
I'll start with you, Noel. Why do you think it took her so long, and do you think that time frame was appropriate?
No, and you know what? I'm not really surprised, and here's why Mrs. Hillary, champion for women, waited. Do you remember when her husband had all those scandals and all these women kept coming forward? Do you know that she actually had a committee for what she would call the bimbo eruptions? She actually put the blame on the woman. So I'm really not surprised that it took her this long before she could stomach and come out and actually say how wrong it is.
Well, right, and the fact that she's championed women's rights, she went very hard on that, and the fact that you're talking about a lot of money that has been donated to the Democratic Party, specifically the Clintons over the years. So I want to go to you, Mustafa. What is your take on this?
Well, look, I think 5 days, but also the statement came out from her press secretary, not directly from her. And there's a number of other people, a number of the Democratic leaders that didn't stand out. And that's how sexual predators work, right? They create this intimidation, not for their victims, but also the people around them that protect it. But I find it really amazing that I saw Kellyanne Conway, a number of strong President Trump supporters, come out really aggressively on this, because President Trump was accused of the exact same thing. The Access Hollywood tape, the 17 women that came out. So every time somebody mentions Harvey Weinstein from the Trump administration, it reminds people of the challenges that the President Trump had. And so it's funny to hear it from them, because sexual predators are everywhere. If the things that the President Trump was accused of, if he was a leader of a Hollywood studio, if he was ran a news organization, he would have been fired for that. So again, I think what Harvey Weinstein is awful. I think Hillary Clinton should have denounced it much earlier, so should other Democratic leaders. But the Trump administration surrogates saying stuff like that is, I don't understand that politically either.
I'm glad you clarified that, because for a second there I was wondering if you were saying it was okay that she took that long, but you're saying it's not okay that it took that long.
It is never okay. This is something that's a problem on college campuses. This is something that's a problem in corporate America. And all of us need to be united in making sure that anytime we hear something like this, that we're aggressive and we speak first.
Okay, and also, as you mentioned, Kellyanne Conway did send out a tweet saying it took Hillary about 5 minutes to blame the NRA for the madman's rampage, but 5 days to sort of kind of blame Harvey Weinstein for his sexual assault. So that was the quote that you were talking about. Now, we also want to talk about the NFL with you guys, and the fact that Roger Goodell now sent a letter to the NFL teams, wants players to stand during the national anthem. Right now, it's suggested that they stand, but they don't have to. Is this too little too late, Noel?
It's all about the ratings, baby. And I think that he is starting to see that, you know, when you're down in the ratings and you're down on income, I think that he's changing his tune. But it's really sad. Look, it took Jerry Jones to stand up and say this. It took, you know, Pence walking out. But why couldn't he have, you know, tackled it on the front end, just like Adam Silver, the NBA commissioner? He's had enough of it. He just says, we are going to stand, and that's it. And this is all she wrote, basically. And then we have Roger and his great opinion, who has flip-flopped. I think Roger Goodell is weak. I think he's a weak leader. I think that he needs to be replaced. Out.
This is not the first time, in my opinion, that Roger Goodell has been criticized for taking too long to respond to these things. Mustafa, is updating the manual enough? What has to be done?
Well, look, I mean, I feel the same way. I mean, when the national anthem plays, it just makes it very difficult for me to. I cringe when I see people protesting at that. But at the same time, you know, if First Amendment is enshrined in our Constitution, people have the right to do that. And if you take away one person's freedom, then you're taking away others. I think Roger Goodell and others probably feel the way I do. The national anthem is important. I'm not sure if they're doing it for the rating or for the right reasons. But at the end of the day, I think mandating people by changing a manual is really not the right way to handle an issue like this.
Well, there is going to be a meeting next week with the owner, so we'll see what comes out of that. Nawal Nikpour and Mustafa Tamiz, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Rob.
Thank you.
All right, good little discussion there, and some headlines now. And a Fox News alert: President Trump could soon be just yards away from North Korean soldiers. South Korean media reporting that the White House is scouting possible sites for his upcoming trip to Asia, including that very intense demilitarized zone that separates South and North Korea, an area nobody can touch. The rogue regime would likely see Trump's appearance as provocative. Former Green Beret and Fox News contributor Michael Waltz says a visit would send a very strong message.
It sends a message to the 30,000 troops that we have in South Korea whose lives are sitting over there on the line. Their commander-in-chief is leading. He's leading from the front, and that he's no longer going to accept the same old that we've had for the last 30 years.
Now, the president also meeting with his top generals just hours before the U.S. military flew Air Force bombers for the first time at night over the Korean peninsula in a drill alongside South Korean and Japanese planes. All right, the FBI arresting a man suspected of taping an alarm clock to a mason jar filled with nails and explosives and then leaving it inside an airport. Police say 46-year-old Michael Estes admitted to leaving the homemade explosives near a terminal in Asheville, North Carolina. He claims he was preparing to, quote, fight war on U.S. soil, but authorities have not released an exact motive just yet. And right now, the Supreme Court is debating a case that'll decide how and if police officers should be shielded from liability. This after 16 partygoers cleared of trespassing charges back in 2008, then later sued several Washington, D.C. police officers. The D.C. Circuit Court ruling that the officers didn't have probable cause for entry and were not entitled to immunity from liability in this case. Critics are worried that the ruling will have what they call the Ferguson effect, which is something that leaves officers hesitant to enforce the law, like we've seen in Ferguson, Missouri, after the riots. All right, First Lady Melania Trump leading the charge in the fight against the opioid epidemic. She visited Lily's Place in West Virginia. That's an infant recovery center that helps families dealing with addiction.
It's a very passion of mine to help children and educate them, and also to educate the families and open the conversation about opioid abuse.
Now, the First Lady later tweeting, quote, today's visit to Lily's Place, West Virginia, was incredibly special. Let us all find ways to help children grow into happy, healthy adults. All right, moving on to the weather now. We're going to go to Janice, and it was an anticipated bad fire season out west, and it certainly seems it's come to fruition.
Absolutely, yeah. Rob. And we're still watching that area where we have the Sonoma fire, the Tubbs fire. We have a red flag warning in effect in that area, and Southern California as well, where we have several wildfires burning, fire weather watch. But Northern California, we're watching this very carefully because the Tubbs fire is 0% contained, and we have a system to the north that's causing very gusty winds. So that red flag warning that conditions are favorable for the spreading or igniting of wildfires. The Tubbs fire, it's not the temperatures, but low relative humidity, breezy conditions, and the fact that we have zero containment here. So we're going to be watching this really throughout the work week because we don't have any rainfall in the forecast as well. That system is going to bring some rain and mountain snow, but none of it getting into the areas that we really need it. Rob, Jillian, back to you.
All right, Janice. President Trump taking tax reform on the road. So what does it mean for your wallet? We're going to break it down coming up next.
Plus, forget a test drive. How about a test buy? If you don't like the car you just bought, you can now return it.
What?
We'll talk about that coming up. A few hours, President Trump will head to Pennsylvania today to push his new tax reform plan.
This as he looks to make good on another campaign promise, repealing and replacing Obamacare. Griff Jenkins joins us live from Washington, D.C. with what you can expect from today's speech. Griff.
Hey, Jillian and Rob. Yeah, he's heading up to Harrisburg. It's the third visit he's made there since becoming president. He's going to talk to a crowd of about 1,000 workers at an Air National Guard hangar. Many of them are expected to be truckers, a group the president considers the lifeblood of our economy because literally when the trucks are moving, so too is the economy. We expect the president to talk about some personal stories of those who stand to benefit most from this tax plan. Here's what the president said looking forward to this speech.
People want to see tax cuts, they want to see major reductions in their taxes, and they want to see tax reform, and that's what we're doing.
So there you go. That's what we expect to hear from him. And, of course, we'll see if he can sell Republicans on it.
Yeah, well, and that's the big question is I think a lot of them are hesitant to do anything that's going to add to the national debt. We're already at $20 trillion, and a lot of them are fiscal conservatives. This, if you cut taxes dramatically, you're going to add to that. Are they going to be on board with this? Is it going to be tough?
Well, it's always tough, and we certainly saw it with health care. Remember, he came up short time and time again. He's going to have to position it to hammer away on job creation and what working families stand to lose. Here is how economist Peter Morisi, who was on this program just a little earlier, put it. Take a listen.
This is a big benefit to ordinary working Americans, and any congressman that votes against it really ought to be exiled.
All right. And by the way, we should just note, also expected this week, guys, the president's going to use the power of his pen on health care to try and sign a measure that would allow Americans to buy health care across state lines.
All right, Griff Jenkins, thank you for joining us. How about this? Walmart turning up the heat in its war against Amazon, doubling down on the grocery race.
Yeah, Tracy Carrasco from our sister network Fox Business here with why the retail giant is convinced their sales are going to explode coming next year. Hey, Tracy.
Good morning, guys. Walmart is already the #1 retailer when it comes to in-store shopping, but now they've got to keep up with Amazon. So they're going to be doubling the number of curbside grocery pickups. When you order your groceries online, you pick it up right there. And so they'll have about 2,000 of those. They'll do this by 2018, and they're hoping that once you're there to pick up your groceries, maybe you'll go and pick something else up. If you have a good experience, you'll come back. So they're hoping to increase their online sales, by about 40% next year.
I think I'm like the only person in the world who hasn't done the online grocery thing. I do everything online.
Oh, okay, I like to go hunt for my food. I like to go to the store. But that's a big increase.
I've never returned a car, but apparently now you can.
Yes, this is a new program from Hyundai. They're trying to make buying a car a little more consumer friendly. So what they're doing, participating Hyundai dealerships are going to be able to check on their website for the actual asking price. So you're not going to be surprised. They're also going to let you schedule a test drive for the car so you can test drive it in your neighborhood, maybe around your office. And then you're going to also be able to do paperwork online. And the other thing, like you said, return the car within 3 days. You'll be able to get all your money back if you don't like it. Essentially, you don't have to deal with the car salesman if you don't want to.
So it's basically like a 3-day test drive. Okay.
Right, yes.
All right, and Tracy, unfortunately, we live in a country that has a lot of BS-ish kind of products. Hangover-free Prosecco seems like it might be right up that alley.
Yes. How many people can relate to this one? Grocery store Lidl is going to be selling hangover-free Prosecco, so they claim. Now, this is the organic Prosecco Spumante. It's supposed to contain less sulfites, which is what's linked to causing a hangover. And the bad news here, this is only available right now in the UK. So the question is, when will this be available in stores here in the US?
The bigger question is, when can we test it?
Yes. Does it work?
Does it actually work?
There's no way that works. If it's got alcohol, I mean, we'll see. Tracy, thanks so much. All right, coming up, getting serious here for a second. Many blaming the Las Vegas massacre on automatic weapons, but should we be blaming the gunman instead?
What are you waiting on? You need to get up off your freaking butt right now. You need to start killing people. Maybe guns in and of themselves don't kill people.
This is going to be very interesting. This firearms instructor joins us live. He's going to lay down his case coming up.
All right, but first, let's check in with Steve Ducey to see what's coming up on Fox and Friends. Hey, Steve.
Hey, Jillian. Hello, Rob. Good morning, everybody. California sheriffs calling on the U.S. Congress to step in and change that state's sanctuary status. The executive director of the National Sheriff's Association here on that. Plus, Twitter is backtracking on Congresswoman Marsha Blackburn's Senate ad showing her pro-life beliefs. Now it's letting her run the ads after Twitter had censored it. And the Congresswoman and Senate candidate will join us live. We've got a busy 3 hours. Kicks off 13 minutes from right now, right here on the channel you trust for your morning news. Fox and Friends first. Back in 2 minutes.